A question I've been asked a lot lately is, am I going to make any more Red Dead videos? And until recently the answer was, I don't know. Well, turns out I know now. You see, when it comes to the Red Dead series, I've covered more or less everything off the top of my head that I could cover. And naturally there are some gaps in that, but I'm not privy to the knowledge of them. But there is one area I'm yet to touch down upon, and that's not got so much to do with what's there, but rather what could be but probably isn't. In particular, following the release of Red Dead Redemption in 2010, like many Rockstar titles before it, the game fostered a sub-community of players who investigated myths, anecdotal accounts of strange experiences from within the game. Fueled by a player desire for more content and the game's inherent solitary atmosphere, players were content to search for things that way back in their minds they knew probably weren't there. But also if they were, wouldn't be surprising. And these stories undoubtedly aided when it came to just how deep and rich the open world of Red Dead Redemption 2 is, especially when approaching the aspects of mystery. And I thought for some reason that would be a lovely trip down memory lane. So join me as we explore the myths and urban legends of Red Dead Redemption. Now, for a game to have these sorts of myths, it can't emerge from absolutely nowhere. Now, I've already passingly mentioned Red Dead Redemption's eerie, lonely atmosphere, and that isolated feeling can result in some serious deep thought. The game takes place in a part of the United States sparsely populated by people, and so for the vast majority of a playthrough, the player is alone. There are plenty of characters out there to find, and you interact with many over the course of the story, though precious few are unwarped by their environment. But the transit between place to place that eats up the bulk of the experience is lonesome in nature to say the least, and on these solitary travels, you can't help but feel as if this deliberate atmosphere building is pointing you towards exploring from a perspective that anything could be out there. The air of loneliness may be to suit the narrative theme of the game, but the gentle yet suspenseful ambient music, the campfire stories you sometimes happen upon, the frankly bizarre strangers you cross paths with, and frequent engagements with remnants of human activity come together to give you this strange sensation that maybe sometimes there's something out there to find. And sure enough, there actually is.
Hello, John.
You see, there are a fair few inexplicable occurrences in Red Dead Redemption. Obviously, there's the strange man, an enigmatic character encountered in the I Know You stranger missions. He appears to know John Marston, but John Marston does not know him, nor does he remind him as to who he is. He simply gives him missions that appear to test his morality. His personality is described as incredibly vague. As for his physicality, well, he appears to be impervious to bullets. Then there's the character Almaholic from the Let No Man Put Asunder Stranger mission, for whom there's enough evidence to make an argument that she might be an apparition rather than a living person. And then there are cannibals in the American Appetite side missions. There are plenty of unexplainable or otherwise creepy encounters to be had in the open world of Red Dead Redemption. So not only does the game have the atmosphere to facilitate these kinds of experiences, Rockstar themselves have used this atmosphere to disquiet the player in a not dissimilar way. So when you think about it, the following myths don't sound out of place at all. Let's start off with something comparatively light. In Red Dead Redemption and the epilogue of its prequel, Red Dead Redemption 2, Rufus is the name of a Labrador retriever owned by the Marston family, situated at Beecher's Hope. At the end of Red Dead Redemption, Rufus is seen running behind the house during the final mission. However, come the epilogue when we take the reins as Jack Marston, he's nowhere to be seen. This has led players to believe that at some point between 1911 and 1914, Rufus passed away. The notion of him either passing away or running away are reinforced by statements Jack can make during gameplay.
I guess I miss Rufus.
However, despite the dog no longer being present at Beach's Hope, players can still hear a barking sound effect played around the ranch. Obviously, this is likely due to an oversight and little more. Players also reported sometimes seeing Rufus around Beach's Hope while playing as Jack Marston, only for him to disappear once they looked away. And so, naturally, a theory arose that, for some reason, Rufus the dog's spirit haunts the ranch. And that's a nice entry point to these myths. Dogs are cool. While we're at Beach's in the epilogue, another spirit you might wish to look out for is that of John Marston. Following his grisly fate at the site at the end of the game, players reported seeing footsteps around the farm. Players also reported hearing him talk, and even catching a glimpse of him in the mirrors within the house. In the audio around Beach's Hope, even in the epilogue, you can hear what sounds like footsteps at times, and the music being eerie certainly doesn't help. I can also certainly vouch for there being barking sound effects around the ranch, even though Rufus is nowhere to be seen. But I don't suspect the spirit of John Marston actually haunts this place, or that it was intentional. Maybe Uncle might haunt the place, he was a cantankerous old fella. But it's a legend because it can't be proven, so we'll leave it at that. Before I overload the video with ghosts, which will undoubtedly remain the case regardless, let's take a trip up into tall trees to explore one of this game's more infamous myths. The werewolf in folklore is a mythical half-man, half-dog creature, one that's supposedly capable of transforming from this monster into an ordinary human, and then of course back again on a full moon. And supposedly up in tall trees it can be encountered. A rumour spread that if you tied up an NPC and brought them out into tall trees during a full moon and covered them in bait, you may be able to attract the werewolf. Players have also reported sighting the beast, only corroborated by the image on screen now that's believed to be a fabrication. Others go as far as to say they've been killed by the legendary monster. However, it is important to acknowledge that tall trees is bear territory, and these hulking animals in their own right can inflict catastrophic damage to the player before you even realise they're there, and being territorial creatures, they're unlikely to be friendly if you find yourself in close quarters with one. It appears the urban legend of a werewolf in tall trees arose sometime following the release of Undead Nightmare, which makes an awful lot of sense. In Undead Nightmare, tall trees is home to the famous cryptid ape Bigfoot, or the Sasquatch, and though that's only implemented as a commentary on humans fearing what they do not know or do not understand, it highlighted the creepy nature of tall trees, and from that, undoubtedly, imaginations ran wild. Apparently data miners have also searched for code pertaining to a werewolf and come up with nothing, though wolf howls can certainly be heard in the area, likely due to wolves. Sightings of this elusive werewolf could be explained by the infamous Manimals glitch, a bug in which animals would spawn with human ped models. But that was patched early and likely doesn't hold up under scrutiny as an argument against the werewolf sightings, so I'd chalk most werewolf sightings in Red Dead Redemption down to either the misidentification of bears and wolves in the distance, or the flickering of textures and shadows at range that occur because, in the end of the day, it's a game. So it would seem as if there aren't werewolves in tall trees in Red Dead Redemption, but that didn't stop people from theorising that they were indeed there, because, considering the atmosphere, they wouldn't have necessarily been out of place. Now we scooch over to Blackwater, where there are stories of ghostly occurrences. It's here where in Red Dead Redemption some players claimed to have encounters with a ghost. Blackwater is the kind of place you could believe to be haunted due to the Blackwater massacre occurring in 1899. And every subsequent massacre because the player gets bored. Now, I couldn't find many details about this one, but supposedly the ghost can spawn anywhere in Blackwater. An NPC will appear and say something along the lines of, "Hey, I know you, you killed me," and then disappear, which is likely a bug paired with mishearing the line of dialogue that goes, "Hey, I know you, you kill people." However, when has rationale stood in the way of a good legend? A key location for these sightings is the Blackwater Bank, and as far as I can tell, the origin of this myth appears to be YouTube videos, so as a bit of a self-own, that kind of says it all. I will weigh in by saying that in Redemption 1 there are some unsettling sound effects around Blackwater, but that kind of goes for the rest of the map too, so it doesn't stand out. It is my personal belief though that there is nothing to find with regards to a ghost in this town. But ghosts do exist in the Red Dead universe, at least to an Easter egg degree, so I will not rule out a prospective canon premise, but I don't know even that. Another supposedly haunted location is the wreckage of the Serendipity, a ruined riverboat found grounded in waters too shallow for it, situated not far from the respectable town of Thieves' Landing. How it came to be here is well worth a video of its own at some point, but to say its appearance abandoned here is a mystery would be an understatement to say the least. Now rumour has it this ghost ship is haunted, with rumours of peculiar noises such as footsteps, the lamps turning on at night even though nobody's there to light them, which is probably due to the main story mission set here in which there are actually people here and they just assume you're not going to come back. There are also anecdotal reports of bloodied footsteps appearing on the site, and ambient music ceases upon either approaching the ship or the dock, something I also noticed. There are also supposedly various campfire stories regarding this wreckage giving contradictory information on how it came to rest here.
You ever hear the old-timers talk about the wreck of the Serendipity? Said that boat was cursed by a woman who had been cheated on.
I never did hear such a thing.
Her husband, the captain, died in a terrible way. It's still cursed.
So there is an in-game suggestion of a curse on this wreckage. Other players have claimed to hear voices or whispers present at the site. But as far as I can tell, there's nothing to explicitly state this site is actually haunted. However, there is a canon implication that it might be. Stay tuned for a possible video on the Serendipity in future, because it seems as if there's much more to this story than just its legend. But if you plan to investigate these hauntings for yourself, it's said they occur every Thursday night. I presume that's in-game, not in real time, or that would be alarming. Another myth I've seen circulate a lot is the presence of a sea monster of sorts in Lake Don Julio in New Austin. I've seen it referred to online as the Loch Ness monster, and it bothers me because Loch Ness is a place, and this is not it. But this legend appears to have originated when somebody photoshopped a Loch Ness monster-inspired creature in the background of a screenshot within Lake Don Julio to fool people into thinking there's a beast in this small body of water. Now this one, for obvious reasons, doesn't appear to have been taken too seriously, and understandably so. But Red Dead Redemption 2 does appear to have cut audio files implying that a sea monster was intended to be present in the game. Perhaps this would have been a nod to Red Dead Redemption 1's original myth, and that could have served as vindication to those that believed this was there as an indicator that maybe there was some substance to it, but as it stands, that's just not the case. Our usual programming of elusive ghost sightings brings us next to Stillwater Creek to the west of Thieves' Landing. It's a small boggy place where you may encounter the Flowers for a Lady stranger mission that is weird to say the least. Per online rumours, supposedly, if you're riding near the railway at Stillwater Creek on a full moon night, the tracks will become enveloped in fog, and then from that fog, players will be able to see the apparition of a woman. Apparently approaching her results in her turning around and screaming, with reports stating that she may even kill the player. However, no available footage would suggest this is indeed a thing that happens in the game. The abandoned town of Tumbleweed is a huge focal point for the urban legends and myths attributed to Red Dead Redemption. There are 3 focal areas around this town of relevance to this discussion: the church, the manor house, and the town itself, which in the events of Red Dead Redemption 2's epilogue is still inhabited by what appears to be a largely civilized population. Things clearly went rapidly downhill, as that was only 1907, and by 1911 it's a ghost town. A ghost town frequently occupied by outlaw factions. Newspaper articles found throughout the game allude to the town of Tumbleweed being haunted, where we learn that visitors claim to have seen spirits of the dead, others ghosts, still others ghouls and fairies, leaving us with the general suggestion that the entire town of Tumbleweed may be haunted, though the in-game article I just quoted also states that reporters found no evidence to support it. But player anecdotes brought focus to the church for one. Supposedly, this abandoned church is haunted by the devil himself. Despite being an abandoned church, the chandelier is still lit, and marked into the altar we can find the message "the devil has got into that beast," which is a cheat code and likely largely unrelated to this myth. Players have reported sighting apparitions in the church's windows, and this image also circulated for some time, showing a shadow on the back wall that appears to depict a mythological figure of some description, leading players to believe that if you wait around long enough in this church, Satan might appear. I don't know why he would, it seems a bit like a waste of his time. But of course the image you're seeing now is likely a falsification. Regardless of whether or not the devil himself occupies this church, were I a man of God, this is not the church I would choose to pray in. To little avail, players have extensively explored this portion of Tumbleweed, but there is nothing truly conclusive to be found here. The other notable hotspot, in inverted commas, is the mansion, where it's said that if you shoot out all of the lights inside the manor at night time, the apparition of an old lady will appear in an armchair in one of the upstairs rooms, which I didn't manage to trigger myself, so I doubt the validity of this low-resolution image. But supposedly this mansion is home to many other encounters as well. The sounds of footsteps, voices, flashing lights and other things that would unsettle you if out in the middle of nowhere on your own in an abandoned building. However, as of yet nothing has been confirmed to be there to be found, meaning the rumours of hauntings in Tumbleweed could just be an attempt by the gangs that occupy it to keep people away. Supposedly, rumours have circulated online about sighting a phoenix while exploring the Mexican portion of the game's map. Now, in mythology, a phoenix is an immortal bird that effectively gets reborn. Supposedly, players can sight one for a moment before hearing a loud roar. Now, naturally, I find this one to be far less believable than the rest, because I think if something was identifiable as a phoenix, it would definitely stand out enough to no longer be a myth. But either way, we needed some representation of the Mexico portion of the game, as everything so far has been quite US heavy, and we can't be having that. Back in 2012, a YouTube video that is now deleted was uploaded with the title "The Meteor That Rocked the Old West." Supposedly, the meteor struck outside of the map in a multiplayer lobby, resulting in towns burning and every player being killed. However, they also claimed that they could get in trouble for sharing it, so chances are they fabricated a hoax here. Interesting nonetheless, and remembered for reasons that are lost on me. Now, as for other myths and legends in Red Dead Redemption, there are plenty that stem from the material of Undead Nightmare, where the game is less afraid to tackle more supernatural elements. For example, the Chupacabra makes an appearance in Undead Nightmare, a predator largely from Mexican and Puerto Rican folklore, whose Spanish name translates to goat sucker. Described as a hairless canid, this creature sucks the blood from its livestock prey. This cryptid can be found in Undead Nightmare after completing the Undead Hunter Challenges Rank 4. However, there are rumours that suggest this beast may be real in the main canon, with some players apparently speculating that somewhere in the base game of Red Dead Redemption, the infamous Chupacabra is waiting to be found. I couldn't find any rumours of the unicorn hiding somewhere in the base game, which would have been nice. Players have also theorised you can encounter the Sasquatch in the base game, but there's no evidence to support it, and since the Sasquatch appears in Undead Nightmare, I suppose there's no reason for players to even look. Beyond all of that, the only other Red Dead Redemption myth I can think of off the top of my head is the ghost of Nestas haunting Bearclaw Camp. But I think we can all agree this video already had enough ghost stories within it. So to wrap this fun but largely substanceless video up, the question I wish to answer is, what was the point in this exercise? Well, it was good fun to explore, I suppose, but I also feel as if the people who contributed and participated in the spreading of these rumours back in the day shouldn't feel too pretentious in believing they had a small part to play in contributing to why Red Dead Redemption 2 eventually wound up with so many mysteries and stories, supernatural elements, or otherwise. I'm not saying that Rockstar games in general weren't largely heading in that direction anyway. If anything, I think they kind of were. But I do think it demonstrated that despite the extent of mystery present in the open world of Red Dead Redemption, the player was still looking for more. And I think that's, if anything, a testament to how well Rockstar crafted this world, and how it captured players' imaginations back in 2010 to an extent that a lot of games can't even manage now. And that world was only enhanced with the release of Red Dead Redemption 2 in 2018. And I used footage from that title in this video because I feel it enhances it, but I suppose that's not for me to decide. And I suppose that brings today's video to a nice little conclusion. Thank you all for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. That's the main thing I'd like for people to take away from my content. And if you did enjoy it, I'd appreciate it if you left a like, hit subscribe, share the channel with your friends, all that wonderful stuff, if you want to. I know it's been a while since I did a Red Dead video, and this was a good time. It breaks up all the Grand Theft Auto content. I have of course got some more content on the cards for the near future, but let me know what you'd like to see in the comments. But until next time, please take care, and goodbye.